We're going to go ahead and get started with Wayne's presentation. As a reminder, this is the final presentation that we have here for DEC, so thank you so much. Clap it up for all the people still sitting here in the room. I'm seeing a good 20 to 25 people in here. I know it's been a long day. I think we got a killer presentation to end off with. So without further ado, I'm going to hand off the microphone to Wayne Kubiak. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, thanks everyone for sticking around. Thanks for everyone else that have done talks all day. I know it's been a long day, and I'm sure you all are, I don't know, a little tired and a little cold, as we do. But I don't know. Let's get doing this. So this is more or less getting your foot in the door for making games. I kind of come from a very DIY background, very indie games, that kind of focus. Just so this is, I don't know, kind of where it's all coming from. Hi, I'm Wayne. Hi. Thanks for all the waves. I appreciate that a lot. I've been working in the game industry for roughly about 10 years now. I do pixel art, I do animation, I do a little bit of game design. But anything indie, you kind of wear a lot of hats. You do as much as you can, and I don't know, just fill in the gaps. I'm a partial owner of Neon DEC Games. We made a game called Shoot Shimi in 2015-ish. We released it on a bunch of different consoles, and now most of my day job work is at a company called Nicholas. I worked on The Binding of Isaac, the Switch versions of Cave Story, and that's pretty much, I don't know, everything I do most of the day. And then I take on a bunch of different projects just because I like to make stuff and I can't stop making games. I've also worked on Freedom Finger, Retro City Rampage, Kitsune Tales, Broxia. There's probably like 30 games or so that I've worked on. I like making stuff and I can't stop. So the big question is, how do you get into the industry? Everyone always asks this question. I've been kind of putting this off for a while, just because I don't have a great answer, but I kind of have an answer. Because no matter what, your origin story is important, and where you're coming from and everyone's position will always be, I don't know, what makes things most to you. So basically, we'll start this off just talking about my origin story, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of things. It's a long-winded story. I started out living in Buffalo, New York. It's kind of a old steel town, very simple working-class DIY area. I spent most of my high school year just kind of floating around, not knowing what I wanted to do. Later in high school, I ended up in a computer information systems class, which is the easiest class that I've ever taken in my entire life. And in it being so easy, I just started hanging around with the hacker kids. And the hacker kids taught me how to pirate software. Yeah. Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. So they showed me how to pirate the good old Adobe Photoshop and Macromedia Dreamweaver, and I had a strong interest in just trying to make websites. So I made myself some weird, silly websites and didn't think too much about it, and started in college, and I wanted to go and be a game designer, and that didn't work for me. I'm not set for college, just something that didn't work for me, and kind of flunked out-ish, flaked out. Little life things, they happen. And through a friend of an ex-girlfriend, I was introduced to someone that was starting a web design business. And they wanted someone that was doing some art, and I kind of fell into that role, and it started a weird long web design career. And I sat there for, I don't know, roughly about 10 years or so. So I've been pretty much all self-taught at this point, and in the process of all that, I also like to do music. So I ended up in metal and hardcore bands because I'm silly and I like to yell a lot. And this is actually me when I had a lot more hair. It just slid down my head, it's fine. And then, because this is very long-winded and my entire origin story of my entire life, sit around for a few more hours, don't worry. It so happens that at some point I was going through some life stuff. I quit my band and was just kind of floating around doing web design stuff. And the replacement for me in my band ended up becoming a good friend of mine. And at that point, he was trying to be an industry writer. And he was like, hey, why don't you come with me and write for this website? So I started writing for both Extra Guy and Armless Octopus. We did a bunch of like convention kind of level writing. I went and did PAX a bunch of years and just kind of floated around, just doing stuff on the side for fun because it was fun. I've always had a passion for independent games, and getting free games is very cool. Even if like there's, I mean, obviously there's a work involved in it. And in doing all of that, I started making pixel art headers because, I don't know, that was fun, and it made my articles look better because there was something cool to look at with it. Go on maybe a year or so later, I talked to a friend that I knew from doing band stuff, a fellow that now goes by Dan Mulcanon. He does chiptune music. He was like, hey, I have a friend that is making a game and he could really use art help. He's like, well, why don't you go and meet him? So I went to one of his shows and we met up in some weird little dive bar in Buffalo, hung out for a little while and became quick friends and started making weird little games together. And then within that, we were like, hey, let's do some game jams. So we have this silly little whiteboard that kind of tapped off our very first game jam that we ever did. We did not finish that game. But that's okay, because we did more and we were having a lot of fun doing it. My friend that I was writing with, we tapped him because he was doing music stuff. And just ended up doing like more chiptune adjacent stuff for the pixel art games that I was making, and it kind of turned into this weird little company. A little later, my friend that was writing the music was having a party, and our programmer lived up in Canada, so anytime he was coming down, he just would stay at my house, and it was just a fun little hangout. And he shows up at my house the night before this party, and he's like, Ludum Dare's this weekend. Do you want to make a game tonight? Of course, I was like, yeah, why not? So in this whirlwind of about 24 hours, we made a game called Shoot Shimi. And did decently well on the Ludum Dare end, and pretty much everyone we showed it to had a great time with it. We showed it off at the party. Everyone was very drunk and playing it and having the best time. And we're like, why don't we do something more with this instead of our just weird little game jams? And then maybe 3 or 4 months, we turned it into an Xbox Live Indie Games title. Released it on the service, it did fine. And then through contacts that we knew from doing writing, we started talks with a company called Choice Provisions that were like, hey, why don't we publish your game? Because we were just hanging out at, I want to say it was PAX. So we're like, okay, let's do this. And about, I don't know, 6 months or so later, we really shoot me on, I want to say it was the 360, Wii U, PS4, PS Vita, maybe something else, PC. Everything gets released on PC, it's fine. And this kind of opened up doors for all of us because we released something somewhere and people were like, hey, you could make a game and actually finish a game, which is a very important part. And all of us kind of slowly started seeping into the industry. Our programmer started working for Choice Provisions and worked on the Runner games and later the Hextech Mayhem. That's the League of Legends little rhythm platformer thing. And our musician / level designer guy at this point, he went on to work on VR stuff. And we all just kind of started spreading out. And through all this, at this point, I've met a ton of people. I've gone to a bunch of conventions, showed off our game a bunch of places, and just through the realms of Twitter, someone was like, hey, this company was trying to, looking for work. And I was like, hey, I could use some more work. And I reached out to them and I didn't hear anything back for, I don't know, question mark amount of time. And suddenly I got a message that was like, hey, do you want to come do an art test for this? And this turned into me working on The Binding of Isaac. And little whirlwind of that, and we worked out well. I love all those folks, and obviously I work there today now. And on top of that, I just can't stop making games or saying no to cool projects, and so I just make games as much as time as I can, and can't stop, won't stop. So what does this all mean? So how many people have been in a band, spent 10 years as a graphic designer, wrote for indie game publications, made a game on a whim before a party? Just you. My story is pointless. It's fine. You've all been duped. We can all go home now. No. There's actually a point, though. You've been double duped. The real point is my story is as good as your story, is as good as all of the experiences you've all had. Everything you've done in life, all the connections that you've made, all the friends you've made, all the little skills that you don't even realize that you've picked up, like everything is super important. And as much as you might not think of anything you've done as being useful, it is. Part of it is you're building skills. All the time that you're spending doing any little thing, any of your hobbies, any of your extracurricular activities. If I can say words, this would be great. It all adds up. A bunch of you are talking about doing music. Like everything is important, everything is useful, and all this you can use to find your space, find your place within game development. Like if I wasn't doing software shenanigans with piracy, I would have never done graphic design. If I wasn't writing for websites, I don't know, I probably wouldn't be here yapping about stuff. Or even be able to like talk in front of a crowd. I can probably attribute to playing in metal bands and yelling at people. It's all built into what you've already done and what you're doing and what you're pushing towards. Like, don't ever stop doing stuff. Don't ever stop learning. Don't stop. Just everything you're building is important, as well as all of your friends. Everybody that you've met, everybody you're sitting next to, everybody you're doing game jams with, like, you never know who's going to be someone you're working with in the future, someone that will be like, oh, hey, I could give you a ride somewhere, or like, help you out at a convention later, or heck, just being able to stop off and drop you food, or even make games with, like, I'm sure y'all are in little groups that you're doing stuff together or doing game jams, everything. Like, all these people are important. At some point, you'll all maybe make companies together, or you'll be working for a company and help out your friend that will later be like, hey, why don't you come join us? The only other thing is everything's not transactional. Like, you're not being friends with everybody just because you're getting something from them later. Like, that it's a very cynical way of looking at life, and people will notice that. Like, people will realize that you're not just being sincere about it. Plus, being friends with people is fun. Making stuff with people is fun. Which kind of leads to be good to each other. If you're not being good to each other, then people are going to see you as a jerk. People will see you as someone you don't want to work with, someone you don't want to make stuff with. Everything you remember, like, you'll remember good times with people, but if someone's like rubs you the wrong way immediately, you're probably going to remember that forever. You're going to be the person that is like, oh, it's that guy. You know, you don't want to be that guy. And making games is fun. Like, you're supposed to be making people happy. Why are you not putting that into the rest of your life? Putting that in, like, with everything you do, just like spreading that joy out. Because maybe you're trying to also make an art piece or something, but it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be enjoyable. Like, people usually aren't spending their time to play your games to be angry. Oh, also, like, if you're a good person and everyone enjoys being around you, then people are going to want to support you. People are going to want to be like, hey, come work with us. It's easier to get into any company if you know somebody. And even if that somebody is just like a friend of a friend, is like, oh, hey, I know this cool dude that writes code. He does some cool stuff, or like makes some cool art, makes some cool music. Like, it's so much easier to have that one-step connection, and it makes it so much easier to just get in that space, get in that door. And most importantly, just make stuff. I mean, clearly you all are making stuff currently, and hopefully I can see your stuff in a little bit. I know a bunch of y'all have games to show off in a little bit. Do game jams, create personal projects. I don't know, team up with folks that you haven't teamed up with before. I was talking earlier about how, like, even just stepping out of your bounds to work with someone new, like, you're getting a different view, you're getting a different connection with how someone else does something, and that way you're learning a different way of doing something. Also, share your cool stuff. Show off your games, go to little conventions, go to this stuff, show off stuff on social media, I don't know, post it on Newgrounds, or whatever place makes you happy. Because if you aren't showing it off, then no one knows. And this is a thing to tell myself, because it's easy to get in your little hole of like, oh, I'm making cool stuff, and if you're not showing anybody, nobody knows. And it kind of rolls into also marketing. Like, you're marketing yourself, and you're marketing the cool stuff that you've made. And it makes people more want to see what you're doing and see more of that. Also, don't forget making games fun. It's okay. You can enjoy it. And enjoy the time you're creating games with other people. Because that's half of the process is fun. It's not, I mean, like, it's going to be hard work. It will always be hard work. But everything worth doing is worth it putting that time into. And I want to thank y'all for coming. Also, like, I'm yapping at y'all about just, I don't know, making stuff, and a good way to see the world and see how you're connecting with others. But like make up your own mind. Like don't let my words be exactly what you're following for the rest of your life. If something seems weird or off with anybody, be like, hey, like maybe I want to do something different. Maybe I want to take this in a different direction. Like the whole point of this is to take all your experiences and make your own path. Like to take yourself into that direction rather than like needing an exact guide to do it. Because the things you're doing are the right things. You just have to push yourself a little more and you'll get there. Also, I can't wait to play all your games and see what y'all are making. Also, lots of questions, I'm sure. You see you've had your hand up?
Me?
Yes.
Okay, so something I was a little curious about is around the slide where you were talking about how the publisher found you. You might have already stated this and I didn't remember, but it seemed like it spiraled from. Is it because like your game Shushimi got a lot of attention that you got these connections into the publishing? So it really can just be like you're working with your friends and y'all make something good, and other people are like, hey.
It's all kind of interwoven. Like if we weren't writing about games and making those connections earlier than that, like we wouldn't have met these people. If we weren't making the games that were interesting with the friends that we've met along the way, like it's all is one piece.
So, what would you say is like some of the best ways to get your game in the industry? Sort of making, how is the best way to make these connections other than like, I don't know, the networking we're going to do in a couple minutes?
That is exact it. Like, yeah,
Okay, cool.
because you don't know what direction anything is going to take. Like life is always going to be free flowing. There's always going to be chaos, and you might as well lean into the chaos and find the things that feel right to you.
Do you have like a specific core memory that like led to you being like, okay, I really like making games. I want to do this in the future?
When we were making Shoot Shimi, the very first version, we had a bug in the game where no matter anything we did, it left all these trails everywhere. And it was like the trippiest thing ever. And we're like, well, why don't we make this thing into a mechanic? And this became a mechanic called Party Time, where one of the levels was just flashing colors in the background and just everything had trails and we just had a party. And that was my main, like, I want this feeling forever. You over here?
Were there any points where you were wanting to kind of just like, I don't like, it's hard to be in this like job or this line of work, and how did you push through it?
There's always going to be hard times. There was a point where my day job work had dried up for the moment. Like the projects were in between anything that I was doing, and I didn't have any work. All my extra stuff was kind of on the back burner, and I had to just essentially hard cold call anyone that was like, hey, I'm looking for art for a game. And I probably spent like 2 or 3 months like just hunting about for things. And that was hard. Like you're going to have, there's going to be points where there's droughts of work or droughts of money, like you're in between jobs and you got to kind of find extra ways to make things work. And like that will be hard. But like I've always had the creative drive to just keep going with it. And when you're hitting those points, you have to realize that it's not because it's something that you're doing wrong. It's because there's just either too many people that are in your space looking for those jobs, or there's just not enough jobs at that moment, or maybe you just haven't looked in the right place at the moment.
How many assets would you say is there average in a project that you work in, and what solutions do you implement early
Number of assets. I guess it depends on the size of the project more than anything. Most like very simple projects will probably be in the small hundreds, just considering like animations and frames and backgrounds and UI elements. And then it just kind of expands from there depending on how large your project is and how many levels or worlds or et cetera, et cetera. As far as getting this all together and making it make sense, usually I like spreadsheets personally. If there's any, like Trello board has worked for me. Yeah. I have like a day planner. If I don't write things down, my memory just eats them up, and I forget to do things, and that's not good. So like, you gotta kind of look around and see which of these kind of things works for you. There's tons of, I don't know, either online or physical things, and most of it's either cheap or free.
Yes, you mentioned earlier that you inevitably gonna come on hard times. I was wondering, how do you keep yourself motivated when those hard times hit? How do you push through when something isn't going right, when you're getting, when the art just doesn't look right?
I'm someone that has a lot of anxiety, so part of that is actually just fueled by anxiety. Um, Also, it's worth to take some time and like, if something is not working for you at that moment, to like step back, step away, try a different part of the project, uh, try to do something that's like not exactly just beating your head against that wall. It's easier to take a breather, or like sleep on it if you can, or do something that's like a comfy thing. Like for me, I like just like doing simple like subtle animations with stuff. So if I'm like hitting a wall on something, I'll take another piece and just do like a couple simple subtle animations.
So I'm an animator, and I'm going to be graduating in about a year or so.
Excellent, congrats.
Yeah, and I have been doing pixel art since like high school, and it's been my main medium because I just love it the most, and I just love making stuff, and I love all the cool techniques that low resolutions kind of restrict you to, and I love all that. But it means that almost all of the art I've made, not all of it, but a majority of it has been pixel art, and I feel like I've always been nervous that when I have it come together to make a portfolio and try to apply this stuff, it's going to be really specialized. And I don't know, do you think being primarily a pixel artist is okay trying to get into the industry, or?
Oh, very much so. Especially now, like pixel art is so much more regulated that people expect that. Their 8-bit games are very common. Like people are trying to push the medium even further. I know so many people that are just full-time pixel artists. You don't have to necessarily feel shoehorned by your specialization, but at the same time, like, don't worry about being specialized. It's going to make you even better at it and make people that are looking for that sort of thing not just like to look towards someone like you.
Yeah. It just always had me. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just always like had me nervous because especially college where they kind of make you do a bunch of things and it's like trying to get you ready for a job, like making you learn everything. Like, but I just want to do this thing.
That's the thing too. You're following your path. You're getting that thing that feels good to you.
So, from a pixel art perspective, or have you heard the game Eastward?
Oh, I love this.
Oh, say that again.
Eastward.
Sorry.
Eastward.
Eastward?
Yeah. It's a game loosely about like a kind of an adoptive father and this like girl with special powers. It's a very, very stylistic, beautiful pixel art project. And I believe the developers they their studio is literally just developed around pixel art development. So like they have a very striking art style. I wish I could show you a picture in this moment. But it's a wonderful project. And I don't know if you have further comments on that. But.
Yeah, I was gonna ask like for reference, Eastbrook has an incredibly complex environment. It has so much pixel art that it almost feels like it in a way, despite being confined. Every building has its own detail and animations, like banners flying. So how would you tackle that kind of project of creating like such detailed pixel art? And if you were like determined at one point to like create a game like that?
So anytime I'm like tackling any new project, I kind of come at it with like a fresh face. I don't want to put that exact my exact spin on it. I want to take the vision and start with kind of like a blank slate. Usually what I'll do is I'll make some sort of mock-up and then use that mock-up to kind of see where I can go with it, see where I can iterate on it, and then slowly whittle down like a list of assets, a little list of things that can move, or add little pieces to it, add little just things to make the world feel more alive.
Okay, I'm just curious. Would you say you specialize in any specific form of like pixel art, like if that makes sense?
Um, I like to bounce around a bunch of different things. Like I feel good trying out new things. And usually when I'm trying a new project, I'm trying to push a different part of what I can do, whether it's like doing more FX or better animations, better keyframes, making backgrounds look more painterly or a little more detailed, leaning towards one style or another. I like a lot of kind of NES sort of aesthetic stuff. So like sometimes I lean into that, but like not every project has to be like that. And it's you kind of flex different muscles, trying different things. And even just looking at pixel art or art as a whole, like there's always so much to learn, and there's always so much that you can take and spend time like learning a new part of anatomy or looking at different types of trees, and everything is different. Everything is unique and beautiful.
When it comes to color palettes, are you often given them by like someone else on the art team, or do you kind of come up with that yourself?
It varies so much project to project. A lot of it is determined by the style that I'm working within. Like if I'm working more like 8-bit NES style, I'll either look at the exact NES palette or like a similar. If I'm looking more towards 16, 32-bit, like the palettes really open up. But at the same time, it's the lower color that I work in, I find it easier to create a base and then add layers to it.
Which software do you work in, and which would you recommend?
I like to work in Sprite. Sprite is. I love seeing the applause for Sprite. It's wonderful. I used to work in Photoshop, and animating is a nightmare in Photoshop, especially like if you're doing like lots of frames. Oh my goodness, don't do that. Promotion NG is pretty good. It's a very different workflow, but if really you got to find the thing that works for you. Somebody that I work with, I know, really likes pixel edit. I like even the single pixel edit woo. Or there's like older free software like Graphic Scale. It really like try a bunch of different things and see what workflow works the best for you. Because no matter what, like we're all wired a little bit differently.
Have you tried any sort of like low-res 3D that
Uh, yes, actually, I love voxel art. Um, it's something that like I on and off dabble with a lot. I haven't done it a little while just because I've been struggling finding like an updated software for it. I used Cubicle for a long time, and there's also like Magic of Voxel, but like Magic of Voxel's workflow feels weird to me.
Blockbench? That sounds pretty good.
I have not. No, I got to look into that now.
Yeah, so one of the, kind of a follow-up to that question, we recently did a game jam project where we applied 2D pixel textures to 3D models, kind of similar to that like DS era workflow of how they did their textures. Do you have any experience like kind of using pixel art in any kind of like abstract way that's not typically just like slapping the PNG on the game object? Do you have any experience using pixel art for something you wouldn't normally do pixel art for?
Um, I like the kind of like Doom style low res, like billboard sprites that have like a weird rotation to them. I like doing that stuff like that is really interesting. And then like extrapolating a little bit from talking about doing voxel stuff. Everything voxel I ever did, I initially did pixel art of, and then just extruded it, and then slowly made it into something different. No, there's one more hand. You in the way back.
I was gonna ask your advice on like creating a storyboard for a game. Because, for example, I'm making something and I have ideas of what I want to happen or like the stories for the character and how it progresses. But how do you like start, middle, and then end? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. What I like to do is like do very like the simplest of sketches just to kind of get your ideas out there. Try to get a vision of like what sort of movement through the story you want. What are like your key points of what's happening like from beginning to end. To take that like each of those points and then write a little bit about it. And use that to kind of push each section and then add layers to it.
How much of the art have you done for the Binding of Isaac? Just like wall art?
I guess it depends on which version. The original version, I was brought in more towards the end of the project, but I did a lot of the environmental work, a lot of the little like baby characters that follow you around, a bunch of icons. As we moved into other versions, I did even more of that. I did logos. Just little pieces of monsters and essentially like whatever I'm needed for at the moment. I'd say I could talk down the amount of work I've done like overall, but it's still a substantial amount of work and probably an entire game's worth of work for over all of the expansions and stuff.
Did for it, like an asset?
I really like the treasure rooms. Those were really fun to do. Especially after we started doing like the greed stuff and like adding like the piles of coins, and that was very fun.
You said you were working on, like you worked on the art for the case story remakes, right?
Yes.
How much art did you do, and like, did you enjoy it? Because I'm thinking like, because you weren't like making new sprites, you were like upscaling the ones from the original freeware version of the game. Like, how much fun did you have doing it?
So I did a bunch of like extra little animations and stuff, and I had a very good time with that. I like doing FX work. That stuff is very fun and free flowing to me. There was a lot of just like we added these like kind of like shaded tiles so everything kind of fades off. it was just busy work. Like it needed to get done, but it wasn't terrible. I struggle making new stuff for like Cave Story, just because like this is a game that I grew up just loving, and I have a strong reverence for. So like it's hard to break out of that, like something that feels perfect to you, but at the same time, like you got to come at it at almost like a re-envisioning. Like how would I do something different in this universe, or how could I like redraw something? I like to do a lot of just like concept mock-ups of like old games in like a new way, and leaning into that kind of a concept makes that a little easier for me.
Just what were some of the games that inspired you?
It is a very long list. I really love NES stuff, especially like that's what I like mostly grew up with first. There's a game called Blaster Master.
Yes.
It's like just a beautiful Sunsoft, I guess like proto Metroidvania at that point. There's a like a side-scrolling and a top-down section, and all the sprites are very detailed and very like great use of color. A lot of very nice textured tile sets. Yeah, everything feels like just a little bit crunchy, but in like a great way. And I think the first pixel art I ever did was like redrawing one of the sprites from that. The other big one is there's an NES game called Monster Party. It's kind of cute spooky, I guess you could call it. But like everything's kind of off about it, and halfway through the first level, you're like walking by this tree and everything gets weird and bloody, and I don't know how they put that on an NES game and got that by Nintendo censors, but you know, I loved it. And it's one of those like weird little curiosities. I always like looking towards, I don't know, the strange, the interesting, something that like we've all played Mario a billion times, but like when you look into the annals of all gaming history, there's some weird and interesting ideas that we can pull and put more towards the future. More often than not, I take a lot of time to just like explore old games, just because I like the ideas that people were going for. Even stuff that was like essentially people called bad. One of the games I'm working on is a horror game that's based on NES Friday the 13th. And everyone has a poor view on that. I personally love it. But taking those ideas and seeing what you can make better on with like a modern design eye, with a different amount of development time, and there's so much to be learned from the history of gaming. Anybody else? Sweet.
Everybody clap it up.
Oh, we got one more question.
You're an artist, right?
Yes, yes. Nope. See ya. Good night, everybody.
Have you ever done programming for games? Like, have you ever had to open the engine and like actually work with the programming to the art that you've done?
Yeah, definitely. Like you're always gonna have to get your hands dirty, essentially, in some ways. Like there's always gonna be things that you can mess with, things that you make your whole pipeline for your team easier. I work a lot with either like Unity or Game Maker, where I have the engine open, I can import stuff, I can change values, make things easy for everyone, and get my ideas across easier. So like the more you know across the board, like I said before, never stop learning. The more you know, the better for you.
Which one do you prefer for pixel art? Game Maker or Unity?
Game Maker. Unity's not always fun for pixel art. Can I ask one question of y'all? Can I take a picture with everyone? Yes. Thank you all for the help with this. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to take a couple of these. One where everyone's making really goofy faces.
No goofy faces or yes?
Yes, the answer is yes. No matter what the answer was, yes. But thank you all. I really appreciate it. Can't wait to see all your games in a bit.